Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. On behalf of the Teaching International Law Interest Group of the American Society of International Law, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all today to our webinar, From Academics to the Field of International Law. We are privileged and pleased to have as our guest today, Professor Rafael Carvalho de Vasconcelos. Professor Vasconcelos is a lawyer with expertise in international law, international economic law, economics, human rights, and private international law. He was previously the director of the Permanent Review Tribunal at the Southern Market Community, Mercosur. He is currently a professor and chair of public international law at the State University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Before I give the floor to Professor Vasconcelos, I would like to ask the audience to kindly write their questions or comments on the QA box section, and we will address them during the Q&A part of this webinar. Professor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So I thank you all very much for the invitation. I thank especially Luis Felipe and Candeja that talked to me this whole time, and we were arranging and planning this opportunity to talk to you, and Brita that I just met. So it's quite a challenge to talk to you about my experience, because like when I first talked to Luis Felipe, I thought that I would like give you somehow my experience, not just as a professor, but also my experience on the field. I mean, as in the practice of international law. And then I was thinking, how could I manage to try to give you my opinions and my experience, somehow mixing this both experiences, my experience as professor, my academic experience, and also my practice experience as a lawyer, and my experience as an arbitrator in arbitrations and so on. But first of all, I'm very pleased to be here, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you, because as you know, Brazil is a part of Latin America that's very special, and when I mean special, is not special because we are special like better, but we are particular. We are very particular because of our language. We speak Portuguese. We don't speak in Spanish. This is not our mother tongue, and it somehow builds a wall around Brazil. And this is somehow a kind of, the language is somehow a barrier to us, because we are very used to write our products, our essays, our researches in Portuguese. We are a 200 million people country, and so we speak Portuguese, but we also write in Portuguese because we have public to consume our products and our production in Portuguese too. And when you invite a Brazilian professor to talk and to hear about our experiences, it's for us very interesting, because for some of you, it will be probably the one of the sole opportunities to understand how does it here work, and how we. Oh, I have to put the charger here. Just a minute. I thought that I was charging the computer, but no, I was charging my my phone. So first of all, that's my impression here to you. I just want to tell you that I am very happy to be here, and just to to give you somehow a panorama of our situation, of how Brazilians we feel ourselves in these conversations and in those fields. So I'm a professor and I'm a lawyer, and I work in both situations. I'm not a full-time professor and I'm not a full-time lawyer. It makes my days and my current weeks and months very, very complicated, because I have to I have to create time sometimes to do things, and I also have a family, so I have to to see my daughter and to be with her and with my wife. And I am professor at two Brazilian universities. Candija mentioned the State University of Rio de Janeiro. I agree that the State University of Rio de Janeiro is one of the most important and well-known universities in Brazil. And especially in the field of international law, we have somehow a tradition in the institutional tradition on international law, both on public international law and on conflict of laws. But I'm also a professor at the UFRJ, that's another university, also a public university in the state of Rio de Janeiro, but it's the federal one. The University of the State of Rio de Janeiro is a state university of the state of Rio de Janeiro, and I am also a professor at the federal one, another university in Rio de Janeiro. So you can imagine that I have to be in a lot of places in several times in a week, and in several different cities as well. And we have at the State University of Rio de Janeiro a program, a postgraduate program, and we have it's also very traditional in Brazil. But I think that about my experience as a professor, I want to talk to you and to explain to you how it works and how do I manage, or how do I organize the researches in the university, in the State University of Rio de Janeiro. I currently have 150, about 150. The number is not very accurate, because sometimes we have I have 148 and sometimes 154. But about 150 researchers that are under my supervision at the university. And this number is not normal in Brazil when you talk about research, that you have like one professor that has that supervises 150 different researchers. And some of my friends here in Brazil, they ask me, how can I manage to organize it and to have 150 different people working on the subjects that I somehow put them to research, and having very clear subjects and products that are to be made in their year, researches and products that are to be made in a year. And I just have to tell you that you have to, this is not about organization. This is not that I am a very organized person, but first of all, I have very good people working with me. And I think that that's the first point that I can recognize. How can I manage to have 150 researchers supervised by me and working on different fields of international law? But these people, they came to me not because they think that what I want them to research is interesting, but also because somehow I have to find a way to inspire them to to work and to research and to manage to produce the products that we deliver to the society. And I was asking myself when I was thinking about what could I tell you about my experience as a professor, how do I manage that to organize 150 people researching different subjects on international law. First of all, I have to explain to you what are those subjects and what are the issues and the core elements that are subjects that are researched by us. We have a group that researches international human rights. I think that's the first one. And this first group is focused on the regional systems of protection of human rights. So the Inter-American, the European, and the African system. It's quite interesting because most of the people, at least here in Brazil, that research the Inter-American human rights system looks at the European human rights, regional human rights system, and don't look to the African one. And we try to build this bridge with the African experience too, not just with the European one. The other field that we research is on private international law, or as you say in the United States, more the conflict of laws. And at the field of conflict of laws, we research energy and electric energy, and how investors and people that are interested in this market in Brazil can invest in Brazil on this field. And it's a quite interesting point of research, because most people that are in this group, in this team, a specific team of private international law, they work as lawyers or they have other interests in this field. The third one is environmental law and sustainability. And it's quite interesting because people look at Brazil and think that we are, when people think about Brazil and Brazilian subjects and Brazilian issues, people think about the Amazon rainforest and about our issues related to environmental law and to sustainability. But I have to tell you that this is maybe not the least important, but of the fields that we organize on our research group, the one that has less, the smaller team, and that requires or that delivers less interest from the people. And the fourth one, I would say, subject or issue that we research on our team, on our group, is politics and international law. And in specific, we have interest on elections. And when I talk that we research elections, we publish once in a year a research product that makes a description of how the election processes work in all over Latin America. And so if you research our product, or if you have a look at our product, you can understand how people in Argentina vote, how people in Venezuela vote, how people in Mexico vote, and how does it work specifically. This product is about 1,000 pages. It's a huge research product that we deliver. And in this last product, we are invited all over Latin America as observers of elections. I've been to Uruguay, not yesterday. They had elections yesterday, but the first round, it was 3 weeks ago. I've been there. I've been to Venezuela in July. We've been to Argentina last year. And in Brazil, when we have the elections, and we had elections this year, we are invited by the court, by the Electoral Court of Brazil, as a research group to watch the elections and to make appointments and to make to supervise, to watch and to supervise and to tell the Electoral Court what is good, what works, and what should be changed in this whole process. So when you hear me talk about how it works at the NEPED, our research group, the name is NEPED. And when I explain to you the 4 branches that we research, our 4 research branches, it's human rights law, environmental law, conflict of laws, and politics and international law, or politics and law, you can ask me, okay, but maybe it's not just because they are interesting subjects that you manage to have 150 researchers under your supervision, producing a lot of products in the end of the year about those subjects. And because I think that our research group, at least here in Brazil, is very well known, and it's a huge success. And it's a success because of the products that we deliver, and that people count in the end of the year to have a new product about human rights and the regional systems, or about politics and international law, or our report about the last Brazilian elections, or our product about energy. This is not just because of that. And when you invited me to talk here to you today, I was thinking, where does it come? That people come to us, to the University of the State of Rio de Janeiro, to research. First of all, you can think, oh, they maybe have 150 scholarships to give to those people, and they are very interested in having somehow a financial support to research and to study. And I tell you that I have no scholarships available. And when we have scholarships available, we have scholarships available for graduate students. And this is not a money that is interesting, that someone would say, oh, I want to be a part of that research group because they have scholarships. So this is not the answer. And I was thinking about how or why those people, they come to us to research with us, and they are very interested on our issues and on what we do. First of all, I think that we manage that research group in a very democratic way. This is a very flat organization. I would say that we don't have, to us, it doesn't matter if someone is a doctor or if someone is a professor, because if a graduate student tells or says something, this person must be heard, so that because this person that maybe or sometimes is a graduate student, sometimes from a graduate student we have the great clue or the great idea that changes our vision on some subjects. And so, first of all, I think that is our internal democracy in our research group, because it's like that sometimes we have like smaller groups working on a specific subject, and you have someone that has just graduated and supervises someone that is already a doctor. It works very well, but the person that enters into our research group must understand how does it work and accept it. The other point that I think that makes it a huge success is that everybody work from home. We have at the university a place, and it's a very good one. We have all equipped with a lot of things that we can use. For example, when we invite someone to go to the university to a speech or something like that, but I stimulate people to work from home. And why do I do that? Because we have no geographical barrier when people work from home. And so I have researchers that I never met personally, because this person lives 4,000 kilometers away from Rio, in a state in the north of the country. Or I have people that work and live abroad, but are interested in those subjects, and they work with us. So that's the second explanation, maybe, of our success in our research group. The third one that I thought that I could bring to you as an explanation for our success, at least of having so many members working without scholarship and producing a lot about issues on international law, is the use of our research group as for personal interests. And I also say, look, if you are a member of our research group and you are interested in studying in a specific university in another country or in another place, you can invite sometimes the professor or the person that works on this issue to speak to us, to make a speech, or to come to take part of a course that we offer at the university, so that it will be very interesting and important to us, because it will strengthen our frontiers and our network as a group, as a research group. But it's also opened for the person to build this network for himself or themselves, so that we both can profit from this situation and those contacts. And the last one that I could think to try to analyze where does our success come is the bridge between theory and practice. I think that it's the most important thing to have people interested in international law and people interested in researching on international law. Because if we keep teaching international law in a traditional way, just describing how the international organizations are and just describing how the principles of international law work. And if we don't manage, and if you are not able to show to that student, most of them graduate students, because those are the students that we have to create in them the interest on international law. If you don't show to them that international law is something that is part of their lives, is something that when they take the cell phone and they use an app, there are international law issues related to it. When they watch television, and when they see the news and they hear the news about something that is happening all over the world, it has to do with international law. If we don't we don't manage to tell to those students that when they travel abroad, and if they meet someone and they fall in love, it is about international law. This is not just about love. This is not just about friendship. This is about international law. We have I think that this is the most important thing of all the things that I tried to bring to you, as my vision of how do I explore international law in my courses and in my classes, and how am I able to have 150 researchers under my supervision, researching several different fields of international law. I think that we have to show them. And for example, this issue about energy that I told you that we research on the theme of conflict of laws, it came from my work as a lawyer. We have here in Brazil a lot of contracts and a lot of important issues happening on energy, on the energy field. And I could detect it as a lawyer and work with it as a lawyer. And then I came to my students and I said, what about studying and researching this field so that we can make a bridge between theory and praxis, and how it is in the field and how it's applied. The same when I am I have a group of graduate students and I have to talk about about Mercosur, which is our regional trade agreement. I tell them, or I can explain to them, how was my experience at the tribunal in the years that I have been there. And it's not just that I tell them how the tribunal works, but I can also tell them how does it work as an international staff that lives in another country, and the immunities that are applied. And so it's very important to show to the students that international law is not just that what we see at the book, but it's also part of our reality. I don't know if it is what you were expecting when you asked me to come here to talk to you, but I think that I have already somehow placed my vision on how do I work with my students international law, and how do I teach them international law. And I think that it would be more interesting to have questions, and that we can make somehow a debate on this issue. So I have to say to you that it's the first time that I talk about what I do as a professor in English. So I was sometimes here thinking, because I'm very used to talk about, I don't know, the elections in Venezuela or how this is, but when you asked me, so talk about your experience as a professor, I was here like searching the words like to make it clear to you. But so I hope that I could do it in a very organized way that you could follow me.
Go ahead, Khadija.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor, for your excellent and informative presentation. It really gave us an informative and useful insights into your rich and valuable experience. You spoke about the two universities that you provide teaching for and research supervision, the State University and the Federal University. And you went into the research with big numbers of students or researchers, and the key to success in managing such big numbers of researchers and various topics. As a focus, you have 4 main topics that you focus on, which are international human rights, focusing on both regional and on both international regional systems, inter-American, European, and African, and the private international law part or conflict of laws part, and the environmental law in Brazil, and the politics of international law with a focus on elections. The key to success, number of things, the democratic process that you are dealing with the researchers with, the opportunities for flexible working and for flexible working and for networking. And the important thing is that these research topics, they focus on daily life issues of importance for them in Brazil, and which brings international law into their lives. A very rich and interesting way for us to discuss and speak about, and lots of questions. A number of them are there in the question and answer session section. Sorry. Before I start with the question there by Heldini Jr., I just had the question of the research of the. Does the research involve any teaching as such? Does it involve lectures? Does it, or is it pure research?
It involves a teaching too. So first of all, I just placed it in the chat, some of our projects. It's very interesting because tomorrow is the big day that we release the 2024 reports. So the first one is that the Sistemas Eleitorais nas Américas. This one is the 2023, and the 2024 we release tomorrow, actually. So so that you can understand how are our products, what do we really deliver. Before answering you, I just have to say that unfortunately or fortunately, they are in Portuguese. And then I come to the barrier that I mentioned in the beginning. because we have actually also a problem with the rest of Latin America, because we are now trying to find researchers in other countries of Latin America that speak Spanish to manage to have a version in Spanish of this Sistemas Eleitorais das Américas, which is our electoral product that describes the process all over Latin America. Because we really want that a group of professors or researchers from Argentina, that they translate to Spanish the information that is about Argentina, and the same with Bolivia, the same with Venezuela, the same with Colombia. This year we could manage to have the first group, which is from Dominican Republic, and the section about the Dominican Republic we will have in Portuguese and also in Spanish. So because of the barrier, our products, they have this limited access, so that just people which read in Portuguese can really understand and understand the what we really do and what we really produce. And Khadija, about your question, we do have teaching programs, because it's like when we start, for example, the research group on human rights, the team that research human rights, this year we are focused on migration and refugee and those topics. And so before we start to research, what do the three systems say, and how do they manage to address this subject, we had to make an internal teaching program with the researchers, so that they could understand the topic and understand what do they have to research. And so normally what do we do at the beginning of the year, because we make all those process, they are yearly. And then in the beginning of the year, first of all, some people that want to leave our research group, they go, and then we make a process to engage new researchers in our group. After this first path, we must then organize what are our goals of the year. And when we have the goals, we have to we look at the subjects, and then we have to organize like a lecture program and a teaching program, so that people can understand this subject to start to research it. And that's how it works and how we deliver. Sometimes in the middle of the process, we understand that the group or the team has a lot of doubts about some specific issue that they are researching. And then we organize another round of lectures so that it could be solved, that some problems can be solved. For example, in another subject that I can give you an example, this year, when we were making the observation of our elections here in Brazil, we had our numbers, they are very impressive. Like, we had 85 people all over the country visiting the election, the places where people voted, the voting places. I mean, you understand what I mean. And we could have information about more than 500 different locations, voting locations all over the country. And with this information, we could produce our report that we are releasing tomorrow as well. But what I want to tell you, I had 85 people, and some of them, they didn't know how it works. They didn't know how to observe an election. And so we had a course with lectures that we could really teach those people, but we have to start from the beginning. What are how does the observation work? What do we do when we go to Uruguay or to Venezuela? What we look in an election, and most important of all, what we wanted to look in this particular election this year. And the subject of our observation in these elections, in these Brazilian elections this year, was accessibility, and how disabled people and elderly accessed the voting system, and if it worked. And we have a 271 pages report released tomorrow to the electoral court, with 31 recommendations addressing the electoral court of things that they have to have a greater look. So, Candeja, what I want to tell you is that the teaching process and the research process and the investigation and the lecturing and teaching, they must come together. And sometimes we have to stimulate the students, because sometimes the students, they research, and most of them, they are graduate students, but they manage a subject so well that they are able to teach their colleagues what they know and what they discovered. And as I told you that we are very democratic in our approach, it works and people accept it. It's very important to say, and I have to say it again, that somehow a doctor learns very frequently in our research group from a graduate student. And I am the professor that supervises all of them. I learn with my graduate students, and most of them, they know much more about a lot of issues than me. And I have and we have to understand it. And I think that this is one of the core elements of our organization. You asked just one thing, and I answered like 7 or 8 different ones.
Thank you so much. This is very relevant and informative. And it really gives us an insight of how the courses go, both practical and theoretical, which is really what is needed for the learning outcomes and the skills that the students need to acquire. There's a question here in the question and answer section about you spoke, Professor, about how you bring international law, or how the focus is that international law is not far away from our daily lives. This is something that you cover in your research, and especially the topics that you picked for your research. There is a question here about and I think this is a bit relevant to your expertise in Mercosur, about the decisions of international bodies and how people can view them as relevant to their daily lives, and how to have them being respected in and being to respond to applying the decision of the international bodies. So any comments?
Yes, that's a hard one, and that impacts directly what I not just what I experienced in Mercosur, but also what I think about international law. I think international law is the most frankly most frank field of law. International law does not pretend to be something that it does not. That it does not. How do I describe it? When something very bad happens in the international community, in international relations, we start analyze it from the international law perspective, but somehow we freeze this conversation when we find that this is not something that can be solved by law, but that it must be first of all solved by politics and then treated by law, sometimes in a repressive way after the thing happened. And when I was at the course of Mercosur, it was 2012. I was 30 years old, 31 years old. It was like a selection process. I was very, very young. I was a boy. And I arrived at Asunción in Paraguay, and I should be the manager, the director of an international court. And I was very, very young. And 5 months after I was there, I arrived in Asunción. There was how can I explain it to you, or how can I say it to you, not giving you an ideological my ideological position about what happened. Like the president of Paraguay. Some people say that he suffered a coup d'etat, that there was a coup d'etat, and some people say that the parliament of Paraguay just dropped him, and the vice president took the power. It was a very and it has to do with the question that was placed here, because the countries of Mercosur, they suspended Paraguay from the organization, and Paraguay entered with a claim at the tribunal, a claim at the tribunal, and we had to manage it somehow. And one of the things that the arbitrators thought when we were dealing with that situation was if Paraguay would accept the decision that the tribunal would take, or if Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay they would accept the decision. It's very clear for someone that study law that when you are a judge in an internal system, if you are a judge in Brazil, in the United States, in France, in South Africa, you don't have to think about the person to whom you are addressing the decision. This is not your problem as a judge. But when you are in an international court, it is a problem, because it can be that you decide something that will not be accepted and accomplished by the country that receives that order, and we will have like two possibilities. This country will just not accept and not accomplish the order, or this country will, for example, leave the organization and will not be under that tribunal anymore, and under that or taking part of that law system anymore. So those are frequent questions that international judges and arbitrator they face. And what I have to say to you, to that person that placed the question is Hildeni, that placed the question. What I have to say to you is that this is a question of responsibility. The international judge or the international arbitrator must act knowing that that decision that he takes will be or will not be accepted and accomplished by the state that received the order. And because this is a point, and this is a question of responsibility, not just with the international order, but also with international law and with the tribunal or the court that this person is a member. Because the worst thing that can happen with an international court is to have a decision or an order which is not accomplished by the country which is to which this order was addressed. And this is a tough question in 2024. If you asked me that 20 years ago, it would be, I would maybe give you a different answer, because I think that the international community was more engaged in accomplishing the international law and the international orders. In 2024, I think that the courts and the tribunals, they have to be careful. They have to think about surviving before thinking about to punish, for example, a specific country. And then you say, oh, and then we are in a part of the history in which international law is useless. And I will tell you, I would not say that international law is useless, but it's maybe interesting to be careful at this moment. And maybe in some years, I don't know if in 5 years or in 10 years or in 15 years, we can come back and then be more able to enforce our international decisions in an easier way. I don't know if I could answer it, but because I was also careful with my statements here. But that's I think I gave you somehow an idea of what I think about this issue.
Thank you, Professor. We have around 6 minutes left, and I will give Louis the floor if you'd like to comment or speak. And then there is another question. Maybe we'll do it after that quickly. Louis?
No, just to thanks Professor Rafael speech. It was very important, very grateful for us to see, to watch. And just to reinforce, if the professor see some ways to the law student, if they can go to the practice of international law, obviously it's only an academic area, is going to stay only in the colleges and universities, or he might have a chance to work with international conventions, treaties, international commerce and everything. There's a good field for the law students to act on this world we are facing right now.
Yeah, I think that when you
and thank you again.
Yeah, I thank you very much for the invitation, but I think that it's quite interesting because not just because they are my students or the researchers under my supervision, but most of them, they describe the international opportunities for their careers. And I have some students and some researchers that were under my supervision, and that today they are working at the international organization in Geneva, in New York, in The Hague, and it is maybe the most interesting achievement of our research group, because I think that they for them, when they understand that there is a practice where those theories can be applied, they discover the opportunities and they go for them. And that's maybe and it's just this is not just one or two students. I have really a lot of students that were under my supervision, and now they are all around the world, and I have to visit them whenever I travel because they are like spread all over the world. It's also good because I can call to ask what are the good restaurants, or where should I stay, or what should I do when I visit some countries.
Thank you, Professor. There was a question here before. It's about international law and its nature. I think this is the first lesson in most international law courses around the world, whether international law is law or not. You spoke about its relationship with the politics, so it's by an anonymous attendee. If you'd like to comment or
I will comment. It's very quickly, very quickly. In 2024, maybe it's not a case to ask ourselves if international law is law or politics. But if in this society that we live nowadays, if law is not clearly politics, like what the whole world always accused international law to be, I think that they were talking about them when the constitutional law appointed international law saying you are politics. I think they were talking about them too. And that's what I say for at this point in 2024. And I could really talk a lot about it if I would talk about Brazilian constitutional law, Brazilian civil law, and so on. Because to us, it's very clearly that this difference between moral and law and politics and law, we left it in at the way when we were to come to this point now, and I think that I answer you, Khadija.
Thank you so much, Professor. It is time now. It's almost an hour since we started. So we come to the end of our webinar. I would like to sincerely thank you, Professor Vasconcelos, for this great presentation and for the sharing of all of this valuable expertise with us and for your valuable time. I would also like to thank the participants and for their attendance and valuable participations. And finally, I would like to extend my great appreciation to Asil and to Bretta and James. Thank you all. Thank you, Louis. And thank you so much.
I just put it NEPEDI on Instagram. If you want to follow us, it's there, nepedi.werge. At nepedi.werge. This is our research group if you are interested in, so you can follow us on Instagram.
And now you need to put in English some reports.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Rafael.